Every single day, millions of people reach for a glass of milk without ever questioning whether it is actually the best choice for their body. But when researchers started comparing milk to a fermented drink that has been consumed for thousands of years, what they found completely changed the conversation. Today, we are breaking down two of the most consumed drinks in the world, side by side, category by category, with no bias and no agenda, just the data. If you want to know what you are really putting into your body, make sure you subscribe, because this is exactly what we do here. For most of human history, milk was considered the gold standard of nutrition. Governments built entire food pyramids around it. Schools served it at lunch. Parents poured it every single morning without a second thought. It was not just a drink. It was a symbol of health, strength, and a good life. But somewhere along the way, a quiet conversation started happening in research labs and nutrition departments around the world. Scientists began asking a question that had never really been taken seriously before. What if there was something better? What if a drink that had been sitting in the shadow of milk for centuries was actually doing more for the human body than anyone had realized? That drink was Ayran, and the more researchers looked at it, the more interesting the answers became. But before we get to what they found, we need to understand what we are actually comparing here. Because these two drinks are far more different than most people assume. Milk, in its most common form, is a liquid produced by mammals and consumed by humans across nearly every culture on Earth. It contains a combination of proteins, fats, carbohydrates, and a range of vitamins and minerals. The most well-known of those minerals is calcium, which has been at the center of milk's reputation for decades. But milk is also a relatively complex liquid. It contains a sugar called lactose, which a significant portion of the global population struggles to digest properly. It contains casein protein, which behaves differently in the body than other protein sources, and depending on how it is processed, whether it is pasteurized, homogenized, full fat, or low fat, its nutritional profile can shift in ways that are not always clearly communicated to the average consumer. This is where things start to get complicated, and this is exactly why the comparison with Ayran becomes so revealing. Ayran is a fermented dairy drink made from yogurt, water, and salt. At first glance, it might seem like a simpler, less nutritious option compared to milk. But fermentation changes everything. When yogurt is made from milk, billions of live bacteria, known as probiotics, go to work transforming the structure of the liquid. Lactose is partially broken down. Proteins are digested into forms that are easier for the body to absorb, and an entirely new layer of nutritional value is added that simply does not exist in regular milk. The result is a drink that some researchers are beginning to describe not just as a refreshing beverage, but as a functional food. Something that actively supports the body's internal systems in ways that go far beyond simple hydration or basic nutrition. But what does that actually mean for the person drinking it every day? That is the question we are here to answer. Let us start with digestion, because this is where the gap between these two drinks becomes most visible. Approximately 68% of the global population has some level of difficulty digesting lactose, the natural sugar found in milk. For many people, this does not result in dramatic symptoms, just a subtle sense of bloating, mild discomfort, or a heaviness after drinking that they have simply learned to live with without ever connecting it to the milk itself. Ayran, because of its fermentation process, contains significantly less lactose than regular milk. The bacteria that produce yogurt consume much of that lactose during fermentation, which means that many people who experience discomfort with milk are able to consume Ayran without any issue at all. This is not a minor footnote. For hundreds of millions of people around the world, this single difference may be the most important one of all. But digestion is only the beginning of this story. The probiotic content of Ayran is something that researchers have been paying increasingly close attention to. Probiotics are live microorganisms that, when consumed in adequate amounts, may offer benefits to the digestive system and beyond. The gut, as modern science has come to understand, is not simply a tube that processes food. It is a complex ecosystem that communicates with the brain, influences the immune system, and plays a role in everything from mood regulation to inflammation. Milk does not contain probiotics in any meaningful quantity. Ayran, because it is made from live culture yogurt, does. Now, it is important to be precise here. The research on probiotics is still developing, and scientists are careful not to make sweeping claims about what they can and cannot do. But what the data does suggest is that regularly consuming foods and drinks that contain live cultures may support a healthier gut environment over time. And a healthier gut, the research increasingly indicates, may have effects that reach far beyond the stomach itself. What those effects look like in the long term, that is where the next part of this conversation takes us somewhere on in. When we look at protein, the comparison between milk and Ayran becomes more nuanced. Milk is well known for its protein content, particularly casein and whey, which have become staples in the fitness and sports nutrition world. Ayran also contains protein, but in slightly lower concentrations depending on how it is prepared. However, the form in which that protein exists may matter as much as the quantity. Fermentation partially breaks down the proteins in Ayran, which some research suggests may make them easier for the body to absorb and use. This does not mean Ayran is a superior protein source in every context. It means the comparison is more complex than simply counting grams. For someone focused on muscle recovery or athletic performance, milk's higher raw protein content may be relevant. But for someone focused on everyday digestive comfort and long-term gut health, the fermented proteins in Ayran may offer a different kind of value. The answer, as is so often the case in nutrition science, depends on what question you are actually trying to answer. Calcium is the mineral most people associate with milk, and for good reason. Milk is one of the most calcium-dense foods available, and calcium plays a critical role in bone density, nerve function, and muscle contraction. Ayran also contains calcium, since it is made from yogurt, which is itself derived from milk. The calcium content in Ayran is somewhat lower than in an equivalent volume of milk, but it is still a meaningful source of the mineral. What makes this comparison interesting is that some researchers have begun questioning whether calcium absorption, how much of that calcium the body actually takes in and uses, may be influenced by the other compounds present in the drink. Fermented dairy products have shown, in certain studies, patterns of absorption that researchers are still working to fully understand. This is an area where the science is genuinely still unfolding, and it would be inaccurate to draw firm conclusions. But it is a thread worth following because it points to something important, that the nutritional value of a food is not just about what is in it, but about what the body can actually do with it. Now we arrive at the part of this conversation that most videos about milk and Ayran never reach, and it may be the most practically relevant section of everything we have covered so far. Because understanding which drink is nutritionally interesting is one thing. Understanding what that means in the real world, economically, globally, and for your daily decisions, is something else entirely. Milk is one of the most traded agricultural commodities on the planet. The global dairy market is valued in the hundreds of billions of dollars annually, with major producing regions including the United States of America, the European Union, India, and New Zealand driving the majority of output. The price of milk fluctuates based on feed costs, energy prices, seasonal production cycles, and international trade agreements. For the average consumer, this means that the cost of milk at the store is shaped by forces that have nothing to do with nutrition and everything to do with global economics. Ayran, by contrast, is a product with deep roots in Middle Eastern and Central Asian food culture, and its production base is more regionally concentrated. Turkey is among the largest producers and consumers of Ayran in the world, and the drink has been gaining visibility in European markets over the past decade as interest in fermented foods has grown. From a pure cost perspective, Ayran is generally less expensive to produce than milk on a per-serving basis in regions where it is locally made, because it is essentially a value-added product. Yogurt, which is already a step beyond milk, mixed with water and salt. This means that in markets where Ayran is readily available, it often represents a more economical source of fermented dairy nutrition than purchasing probiotic supplements or specialty yogurt products separately. For health-conscious consumers watching both their nutritional intake and their grocery budget, this is a consideration worth understanding. What this comparison ultimately reveals is not a simple winner and a simple loser. It reveals that two drinks made from the same original source, milk, can behave in meaningfully different ways inside the human body depending on how they are processed. Milk offers density, familiarity, and a well-documented nutritional profile that has supported human health for generations. Ayran offers something that modern nutrition science is increasingly interested in: a fermented, probiotic-containing alternative that may be gentler on the digestive system and supportive of gut health in ways that researchers are still working to fully map. Neither drink is a cure, neither drink is a miracle, but the data suggests for a significant portion of the population, Ayran may deserve a place in the daily routine that it has not traditionally been given outside of the cultures where it... The conversation is not over. In fact, for many researchers, it is just beginning. If this kind of in-depth, honest comparison is what you have been looking for, no hype, no shortcuts, just a real look at what the research actually says, then this channel is built exactly for you. Every week we take two foods, two drinks, or two dietary choices that millions of people make without a second thought, and we put them side by side the same way we did today. No brands, no agendas, no oversimplified answers, just the data, broken down in a way that actually makes sense. Subscribe so you do not miss what is coming next, because the next comparison we have lined up challenges something that almost every nutritionist in the United States of America has been recommending for the past 50 years. You are going to want to see that one.